My dear Delilah, progress into the land of purple has so far been about as slow as a romantic film from the 1930s. And further, being that everything is either purple or grey, it also appears that there's about as much colour scheme as a romantic film from the 1930s. In fact, my dear Delilah, with all of these striking similarities to a romantic film from the 1930s, I feel I must hasten to point out the two main differences. Firstly, it appears that here there is a significantly smaller amount of romance taking place, and secondly, my dear Delilah, there also appears to be significantly more monsters. With these two elements essentially cancelling each other out, my current experience is only slightly less pleasant than having to watch a romantic film from the 1930s. With all of these beasties, it's a hard fight to make any progress through the land of purple, although when I do successfully make any headway, I make sure to set up a small clearing and a campsite. While this campsite might not actually make me any safer, it does make me feel safer, because if you ask any teenager from a 1980s slasher film, there is nothing safer than a campsite. My dear Delilah, having now crossed past a small pond and burrowed through a small hill, I have now climbed a significantly larger hill only to find myself looking out across a cliff. As you know, my dear Delilah, from the 3 years I spent sitting in a surf lifesaver style high chair while serving my country as a tennis official, I'm not exactly afraid of heights. However, my dear Delilah, it is another case entirely when that area dropped off is filled with monsters. I strongly feel that if it were not for the rampaging herd, Mufasa would have never died. And this, my dear Delilah, sea of beasties is the rampaging herd to my Mufasa. And so, my dear Delilah, my first intention was to pave it over, because beasties cannot come up towards you from underneath if there is ground stopping them from doing so. However, my dear Delilah, as I further explored the situation, I discovered something that was rather horrific. What I was looking at was not the drop-off of a cliff, but rather the slack-jawed, horrific opening gaping mouth of a terrifying cave labyrinth. It was, as you can likely tell from this opening, that the terrifying beasties were flowing. And so, my dear Delilah, like any great explorer recently discovering a new land, I lobbed a couple of explosives down in the hole and then began my spelunking. As I have continued to follow the shaft of the opening down, I have found a passageway branching off of it like one of the many tendrils of a many-tendrilled octopus. How many tendrils they exactly have, no man can say. While exploring this tendril, I have been provided with some much-needed respite from the horrific beasties that have been plaguing me on my descent. There has, however, been a return of poisonous vines, but like a cookie's strength crumbling when exposed to warm milk, they hold up nothing to my magical powers. And so, my dear Delilah, while I once again find myself descending into a form of underworld, this time, however, rather unexpectedly, I find myself rather missing three things. Firstly, following my reference to a many-tendril octopus, I rather miss seafood. Secondly, following my reference to milk and cookies, I rather miss the series Firefly. They're not related, but Nathan Fillion was great in it. And thirdly, my dear Delilah, as always, I miss most of all the recipient of these letters. I know not if I will find any of the three things I miss in the land of purple, but I'm certainly going to have a look.